Throughout the history of the NBA, there have always been certain players who have something special about them. Players that are physically built differently or have a tenacity that is unmatched seem to excel in the league. These are the type of legends that many would agree are some of the hardest to guard in the history of the NBA. Starting with one of the most legendary players of all time, we have Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt played during the 60s and has been recognized as one of, if not the most dominant big man of all time. His insane strength, speed, and vertical seems to be unmatched by anyone of his size, and his physical gifts are the main reason he belongs on this list. Throughout most of his career, Chamberlain stood at 7'1" and weighed anywhere between 275 and 300 pounds. Wilt holds countless NBA records, which all are based around his insane ability to score the ball. He was the only player in the history of the league to score over 4,000 points in a season. He set the single game record for most points with 100 and averaged 50 points in the 1961-62 season. At the time, he was the all-time leader in points with over 31,000, but was later passed by future NBA legends. He holds the record for the most 50-point games and most consecutive games with 40+, 30+, and 20+ points. In his rookie year, he averaged 37.6 points per game, which is the most ever for a first-year player, and later in his career he shot 73% from the field, the most efficient season of all time. So if you weren't alive to witness the greatness that Wilt Chamberlain was, it's obvious that he can score the basketball. Now some might wonder why he was able to be as dominant as he was, and if the era he was playing in just didn't have the talent that the league has now. And that's a fair argument. Players were definitely not as athletic as they are now because of the improvements in medicine and training. However, that does not take away from why Wilt was so hard to guard. He was a player that had a crazy work ethic, which allowed him to be the amazing athlete that he was. Chamberlain was so difficult to stop that the league had to make changes to the rules to prevent him from dominating the game at such an intense level. These rules included widening the lane, not allowing players to inbound the ball over the backboard, and changes to offensive goaltending and free throws. Wilt would catch alley-oops from anywhere on the court, and his physical gifts made it nearly impossible to guard, so the league changed it to be offensive goaltending. Instead of shooting a normal free throw, Chamberlain would throw the ball off the backboard and jump from the free throw line to finish it. So it was clear that Wilt was one of the most dominant scorers of all time and is definitely in the conversation as the hardest player to guard in the history of the league. In the last few seasons of Wilt's career, a new dominant big man entered the NBA, Lou Alcindor, also known as Kareem AbdulJabbar. He was another man that played at such a high level that the rules were changed to combat his talents. In 1967, when Kareem was ready to play college basketball, the NCAA banned dunking as they felt it gave him an unfair advantage over everyone else. A few years later, he joined the Bucks in 1970, and in his rookie season, he averaged over 28 points, which was second in the league. In his following 2 seasons, he had won a scoring title and had already won 2 MVPs and a Finals MVP. Much like Wilt, Kareem had an insane work ethic and his training regimen was well beyond the rest of the league. By his 8th season, he already won 5 MVPs and was starting a new dynasty on the Lakers. It was clear that already, Kareem was one of the hardest players to guard in the league. His patented skyhook was a move that was basically unstoppable. No player had the size, speed, or athleticism to disrupt the shot, and while it wasn't as exciting as throwing down a dunk, it is widely known as one of the most unstoppable moves in NBA history. This famous shot, his tenacity to beat out his opponents, and his athleticism are the reason why Kareem is known as one of the hardest NBA players to guard ever. Next up on the list, we have a player that many have named the GOAT, Michael Jordan. After a successful career at UNC, Jordan entered the league and proved himself to already be among the NBA's best scorers. Much like the previous 2 players, MJ is one of the most decorated players of all time, winning awards from his rookie year until his first real retirement. He is tied with Wilt, holding 7 consecutive scoring titles and an NBA record 10 in total. In his rookie season, he averaged 28 points and only improved in the following years where he averaged 30+ in almost every season. Jordan retired with the highest career scoring average of any player with 30.1 points per game, And as many know, he only got better in the playoffs, averaging 33.4 points per game. However, the reason why Michael was able to score so much and was so hard to guard was because of his style of play and athleticism. Jordan did not have a weakness in his game. He was able to float through the air and make crazy layups and dunks over his defenders. His footwork was one of the best of all time, and he would only need a few moves to get his defender off balance in the mid-range. Jordan's turnaround jumper is iconic for a reason, as he is the best to ever do it and could shoot it over any defender. The three-point line wasn't in the league when he first entered, but later in his career he was even able to stretch his shot out to the perimeter. And while some might believe that Jordan was just a scorer, they would be mistaken, because Michael was able to run the offense as a point guard when his team needed him to. In the 1988-89 season, the Bulls were underperforming, so Jordan was asked to be the point guard, and he ended up averaging a career-high 8 assists along with scoring almost 33 points per game. Many players around the league stated that Michael was the hardest player they had ever had to guard. Even the great Larry Bird said that Michael was on a different level than the rest of the league and that he was really God disguised as Michael Jordan. It is clear that a player that has the tenacity to succeed and the athletic skills of Jordan should be considered as one of the hardest players to guard of all time. Our fourth player on the list is a man that some believe to be even greater than MJ, LeBron James. From the time he entered the NBA until now, James has been nothing short of a problem in the league. LeBron is physically bigger, stronger, and faster than almost anyone he plays, and that is the main reason as to why he has been so successful. If you put any player on him from the 1 through 3 positions, he will be too powerful for them. Like the freight train he is, James can barrel his way to the rim and finish through almost any contact. If you put a big forward or center on him, LeBron will be too quick and will torch him all game. James has an answer to every player that guards him, as he is among the best of all time at slashing to the basket, making plays for others, and dragging his team to wins. Although he only holds 1 scoring title compared to Jordan's 10, I think the reason as to why he is so hard to guard goes beyond just his scoring. Yes, it's true LeBron is a player unlike any other in NBA history that has the strength of a center, the speed of a guard, and can finish nearly every time he gets to the rim, but that's only the start of his game. Possibly his best skill is his ability to make his teammates better and find them with passes from almost any angle. So while the previous players are very hard to guard due to their pure scoring ability, LeBron likes to pick teams' defenses apart by having the attention focused on him while he can find the open man and make the right play. James is one of the most physically gifted athletes of all time, and every basketball fan knows what he is capable of. But imagine trying to keep a player in front of you that is strong enough to back down the league's biggest players, fast enough to get by the quickest guards, and has the court vision among the greatest playmakers in the history of the NBA. It seems like almost an impossible task to be asked to guard LeBron James, but some might argue you could just make him shoot. However, LeBron is not the same player that he was when he entered the league. Over the past few seasons, he has proven that you cannot just leave him open and force him to take a 3. And while that might be the best option to guard him, he has taken at least 5 threes a game in each of the past 4 seasons, shooting above league average. On top of this, LeBron gets even better when the playoffs roll around, so the options on how to guard him are even more limited. When comparing some of his current stats to other NBA legends, James is 3rd in total points, only behind Kareem and Karl Malone, and 8th in total assists. I think most people would agree that LeBron is widely known as one of the hardest players to guard in NBA history due to his physical gifts. While the previously mentioned players are some of the hardest players to guard ever, there are definitely a few more that deserve to be mentioned. Kobe Bryant is an all-time great, and his game resembles Michael Jordan's. However, he was left off the list mainly because Jordan was put there instead. But Kobe's all-around game, tenacity, and athleticism makes him one of the hardest players to guard ever. Another all-time great that many struggle to slow down is Shaq. Standing at over 7 feet tall and weighing around 325 pounds, it was nearly impossible to stop a man with that combo of strength and quickness in the low post. Dirk Nowitzki was another big man that was hard to guard, however he got his points through stretching the floor and his signature one-legged fadeaway. And I think the most recent player that deserves an honorable mention is Kevin Durant. Standing at almost 7 feet tall and having the skills of a guard, it's nearly impossible to get a hand in KD's face when he's pulling up from anywhere on the court. There could be a few more players mentioned on this list, but I think these are some of the hardest NBA players to guard ever. As always, thank you for watching, and if you feel we left anyone off the list, be sure to comment it down below so we could put it in a part 2 video. If you enjoy NBA content like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of our future videos.